Now, I hope that is beneficial. I hope you understand where you're coming from. Now, what happens with all these consultations? Hopefully you can give me some new ideas and new suggestions. If you have any questions and queries, please feel free to do so. I've taken the liberty and I've asked your secretary to do this. If you can probably spare about 5 or 10 minutes. If you want to later on make some written submissions, you can do so. What will happen after this is we take the submissions, we consider them. We also then go around the countryside, as we said, we're going to high schools, we're going to universities, we also have public consultations. In the meantime, while this is happening, we have the Permanent Secretary for Economy meeting up with the respective ministries. They meet up with the various agencies, and then they make the budget submissions, their discussions. Then, after the consultations, they also meet up with the individual ministers, with their permanent secretaries, with their ministries, and we try and finalize the budget. And we of course look at economic policies too. Then, as you know, that then we generally stand up in Parliament and make a long speech about the budget. So it's normally now we're doing it at night time. It's much better. We want more people to listen. Because if you do it during the day, you're probably driving your taxis, you can't get to listen to what's happening in the budget. More people are at home. The last time we started, I think at about 7 p.m. Generally people get home by 7 p.m. So people can sit and watch what's happening, listen to what is happening. We just want more people to participate. When we make the budget announcement, the budget has not been approved. Right? So I stand up and make the budget announcement. But if there is any changes to any tariff, it becomes applicable from midnight the next day. So, for example, if you make the budget statement at 7 p.m. on a Thursday night, past midnight, Friday morning, the tariff becomes applicable. So if you smoke cigarettes, the price of cigarettes will go up if we increase the duty on cigarettes, the excise duty. If the duty on cars is going to come down or go up, it gets affected from midnight. Tariff, I'm talking about tariffs. Now, by law, when we make that announcement of the budget, by law we have to give 1 week for Parliament, all the members of Parliament to digest the budget. Then we go into Parliament to debate the budget, and then we vote on the budget. And as you know, our financial year has now changed. The budget is now applicable from 1st of August to 31 July. The reason why we've done that for a number of factors, because of the fact that we collect a lot more revenue in December, so it will affect us. We have the cyclone period in that time, so we want to ensure that we have a stable budget. There's various other reasons too. So that's the process, ladies and gentlemen. If we can just, I can seek indulgence, if we maybe just open up the floor for a few minutes, if anybody has any questions or queries, and then we can talk about the other stuff that you're interested in, which is LDA.
STT from hire cars. We have trouble here, and the tourist buses too here. Unfortunately, it is there's no taxi meters there in hire cars. So it's very hard for us to claim this money from the passengers here. So we would humbly request if the STT is removed from the hire cars. It's causing a big problem for us. Thank you.
It won't be. The fact of the matter is, the way that STT works is that it is for the high end. You see, we have what we call a progressive taxation system. If you go and stay at a hotel, you hire a car, you hire a rental car, you pay STT, you pay VAT, you pay environmental levy. You travel by public transport, you don't pay STT. You watch your DVD at home, you don't pay STT, you don't pay environmental levy. You go to the cinema, you pay that. You see what's the rationale behind it is that people at the low income level are protected. You go and eat at a restaurant in Nandi Town, you go and eat at a restaurant, barbecue, whatever it is, you don't pay STT. You go and eat at a restaurant in Denarau, you pay STT. Because you already can afford it at that level. So we are able to take that level of revenue from those who can afford it to make sure we pay for education, to make sure we can build roads. That's how we manage to do it. It's what you call progressive taxation. In respect of how you monitor that, that's something that we need to come up with. It doesn't mean they simply take it away. You see, the way that we have to progress the economy, we simply can't have knee-jerk reactions to things. We have to see what's the rationale, what's the purpose behind it. So from that perspective, we try and protect people at the low income level. But if you're at the higher income level, then people will obviously pay that. That's something that you can talk to LTA about.
I have a question here in regards to the report that came out from your office in 2015, the Land Transport Authority, where you have indicated that any freeze of taxi payment that would be uplifted who has driven taxi for last decade would get the opportunity to apply or first chance to become a taxi proprietor. I believe this will bring another phase of change in the taxi industry and the level of poverty where drivers have driven taxis for some other operators or businesses. That will also bring another level that people will go away from poverty, where people have got 10 taxis or 5 taxis, 6 taxis. Individual will become also owners and the level of poverty will also elevate. If you can elaborate on it.
Yeah, in fact, we passed on. That's one of the reasons why we did suggest that. We had a lot of taxi drivers, who said to us that they weren't able to access taxi licenses, etc. We passed on the report. The Minister Bala is obviously getting his team to look at it. We understand that in a few months' time they will be making some announcements in respect of that. But also, I want to also acknowledge Mr. Ashok Patel, who's a board member of LTA. He's here amongst you somewhere. I understand they'll be making some announcements in respect of that. I can't preempt in terms of what they're going to say, but I understand there'll be some progress made in that area.
As you mentioned that from Denrao to Hot Spring, the drivers charge $65 from Denrao. Where out of that $65, they have to pay 9% VAT, 10% STT, 6% environment levy, plus fuel costs, drivers' wages, wear and tear, washing, cleaning, vacuum. So if you add those expenses, the drivers are not making anything. Thank you, sir.
It's not true. Please. It's not true. I'm talking about taxi. By law, a taxi driver is supposed to turn on the meter. Period. So it's not true. I'm talking about taxis. You have to turn on the meter. And, let me finish. No, I don't want to get into argument with you. As you know, I remember when we had made an agreement with the Fiji Taxi Association. Remember, we had a huge taxi fare increase. There's a huge leap. Huge leap. And I remember when Rishi Ram was still the General Secretary, he's back General Secretary again. When Rishi Ram and we had agreed to that, he said for a number of years you have not had an increase. And we agreed with that. So we gave a huge increase. Now, I remember a lot of taxi drivers who I met in Suva, and few of them phoned up on the radio, the talkback radio station. Said, why have they increased it so much? I will lose all my customers now. Then within 3 months' time, when the fuel price went up, they said, oh, thank you very much for increasing the taxi fare. You see, this is a problem in Fiji. A lot of us, we only think up till our noses. We need to think about the industry as a whole. We need to think about what is going to happen in the next few years. You need to be able to understand what is happening in the economy. You need to be able to understand what is happening to world fuel prices. On one hand, when we did increase the taxi fare, we got rubbish for doing that. Then when the price of fuel went up, we said, oh, thank you very much. So you see, there's a lot of these kind of issues we need to think about in the long-term view. Your president said to me, I met him a few months back, he said to me that this turnoff over here, opposite Colonial Plaza, the opposite subdivision, I think the Naidu subdivision, Carpenters, that when you come out of the subdivision, you can't turn right? Because it's a 4-lane road, you can't turn right. He said, you should have a turn right. I said, no, you can't. Because it's a 4-lane road. I said, if we do have a turn right there, when you have an accident, you blame FRA immediately, you blame us, so why did you do a turn right? He said, what if people want to go to town? I said, well, you turn left, go into a U-turn up in the front and come back that way. So it will cost the passengers maybe 20, 30 cents more. That's the reality. how many of you have been to Australia and New Zealand? How many streets in Australia and New Zealand you can't make right turns? So many streets. Or you can't make left turns, whatever the case may be. You can't do it. That's the law. It's there for a specific reason. It's there for the greater good. It's there for safety. We have to make those adjustments. The road is better. When the roads are better, more people want to travel on the roads. You get more passengers. So you see, again, what I'm saying is that rather than having a knee-jerk reaction to things, we need to look at how we can solve the issue. Rather than saying, oh, get rid of this now, get rid of that now. So again, I urge all of you, the way that the economy is moving, the way that things are moving, the way that we get new investments coming into Fiji, we all of us need to make those adjustments too. And those people who make adjustments will always benefit from the system really quickly. I had a gentleman from the World Bank, he was quite impressed. Apparently he was picked up by somebody from a taxi driver from Nassori Airport. And the taxi driver was not someone who was based there. Apparently somebody had arranged for him. He said when he got into the taxi, this is a true story. He said when he got into the taxi guy, this taxi was air conditioned. So he said to him, sir, is the air conditioning to the right level? He said, no, it's fine. He said, I got a bottle of water. You want a bottle of water? He spoke to him, asked him where he was from. And then when he got off at GPH, whatever it was, he gave him his card. He said, this is my card. If you ever need my services, let me know. He's a normal taxi driver. He said, I have used him ever since then. I've recommended him to other people who come for the meetings in Fiji. So what are we doing ourselves to position ourselves? You know, the World Bank is now opening its regional office in Suva. They'll be coming through here. Some of them probably spend a night in one of the hotels here before they fly out, before they go to Suva. How are we adjusting ourselves? It makes a difference. It's very small things. And things like saying thank you to your passenger even though they may be a local. Makes a difference. Basic thing. Any other questions?
Brother Ajit, I would like to thank this Bainimarama government what they are doing for the general public. Even though it's a very tight budget what we have seen today, but we must always appreciate the government of the day. Thank you.
Mr. AG, this is something which I am asking on behalf of all the taxi proprietors at the airport. We are 66 of them. Our taxi permit expires every 3 years. And all those people have asked me for you to especially give directive to LTA so that we can at least have our permit renewed every 15 years. They have asked me. So what I am asking is this: we have our permit renewed after 3 years. We'd like this permit to remain for 15 years. This is what I'm asking. Thank you.
Let me explain to you how it works legally. I can't give directives to LTA board. Those 2 letters that I wrote regarding the speeding tickets and the possible collusion of LTA staff by giving their relatives or themselves taxi permits and other PSV licenses, I wrote in my capacity in the first one as Minister for Justice, Attorney General Minister for Justice, because there's gross injustice. You can't expect somebody to pay the fine within 21 days when they receive the notice or the TIN number after 21 days. So I said that these are the possible options that they can take, and that it is grossly unfair to do that. It's now up to LTA to do what they need to do. And I'm sure they'll be taking some positive actions. In fact, we are looking at drafting some new amendments. The second issue that I wrote on was, of course, from an anti-corruption perspective. Because the logic is that if I work to LTA and I actually have a PSV license, whether it's a taxi or a minibus or whatever, and I'm the enforcement officer also, guess whose taxi or bus I'm not going to pick on? Mine, of course. But I'll pick on others because they're competition. That's corrupt. That's not fair. That's the reason why we wrote on that. And LTA, I'm sure, is already taking some positive action. I can't tell them to give you 15-year license. There is no doubt that when you have a surety of a license, people invest more. There's no doubt about that. For omnibuses, you know, the big buses that drive around, I think their permit is for 13 years, right? 13? 10 years. 10 years. So obviously because they need, a bus will cost up to $200,000. If you give them a license for only 3 years, no bank will ever give them a loan. Because what if they lose their license? The bus will be of no use. So they need a longer period of time to get a return on the investment. So it does lead to confidence, there's no doubt about that. But whether it becomes 50 years, that's something I would assume that you need to write to LTA and justify your reason for that, but it would be highly unusual, I would suggest. The other point is this, in Fiji also, we have, for a number of areas, not just taxis or buses or other things, but there are other things. Once we give licenses, we also need to monitor how the performance is. There needs to be certain standards that people need to meet. In a lot of countries, for example, if you're given a taxi permit, if you get enough complaints and those complaints are verified, they can take away your taxi license. So if you don't turn on your meter, if you do certain things, enough traffic infringements, etc., they can actually take away a taxi license. That's the condition of the license being issued. So we need to, uplift our standards too. So those are the areas that we need to be able to talk about and think about as to what we can do. But please, I would suggest that you write a submission to LTA. Thank you.
Is requesting for 6 years permit renewal, not 15 years. 15 is a little bit too much. So we have sent our submission to LTA for 6 years. Thank you.
I'm sure they're considering it. Have you written to them already?
Yeah,
okay. Okay.
Hello, Honorable Mr. Minister. Can all the higher payments be changed as a taxi so that we have one standard of taxi fares?
Please make the submissions to LTA. I'm sure they'll consider that and they'll look at that. You can also talk about other things in the economy.
Thank you, sir. I'll be speaking on basically two issues. First of all, we really appreciate, on behalf of the Fiji Taxi Association and our friends, we really appreciate of the letter which we have written to the Minister for Transport, Mr. Bala, in regards to the collusion which may exist in LTE officers, their families, in awarding taxi payments. I think that's a very good stand the government has taken, because there are so many complaints, so many people have complained that officers in LTE and their immediate family members are enjoying the benefits. The ordinary public is not, as far as taxi permits are concerned. Thank you very much on that, sir. I'll be taking, now I'll be speaking about just one question on the budget, back to budget. So, a lot has been said about the tourists coming into the country, and a lot has been said about the departure tax. In the current situation, our tourism industry is quite strong, and our people who intend to either migrate or visit, these people are given to pay $200 departure tax. I think this $200 which we are charging as departure tax, in my personal view, if I had to travel, I have not been able to travel many times, but if I have to travel, I have to fork out this $200 apart from my fare, apart from my other arrangements which I have to make. There's very little chance for our local people to pay $200 departure tax and travel to overseas. It may be appropriate for the tourists because they have got a lot of money. Our people are not in the position of. So I was thinking if something some sort of subsidy, some sort of discount could be given to the locals, or put it this way, people who are traveling for the first time, the departure tax to be reduced. So I think that was what I had to say. I picked up on the budget announcement, on the submission, and I thought I would like to say something on this $200 departure tax. That's all.
Thank you. You see, the departure tax throughout the world is applicable to everybody that leaves. As the name suggests, it's a departure tax. It's 200 Fijian dollars. If you buy a ticket in Australia, you'll see that it's not called departure tax. They have environmental levy, they'll have a terrorism levy, security levy, they'll have airport levy, and sometimes it goes up to $200-300 Australian dollars. And everybody pays for that. It's very hard to see, it's not very easy to monitor. Okay, we'll examine this person, that person. What are the mechanisms for monitoring? People in Fiji are also very good at skimming the system too. You know, let me give you an example. The VAT. We had certain items that were VAT exempt. What some people call basic food items. They're not necessarily basic food items. Rice, powdered milk, tea, kerosene, flour, and one other item. Cooking oil. But you don't have a meal with only cooking oil and rice. Right? You need potatoes. You need onions. You need if you eat spices, your cardamoms, all of that. All of that was vegetable. But what used to happen, you go to certain supermarkets, used to sell both vegetable items and non-vegetable items. What do you think they do when they file their VAT return? They cook the books. As a result of VAT now applying to everything, but VAT being reduced to 9% overall. You need toothpaste. You used to pay 15% VAT on that. You now pay 9%. You need toilet paper. You need clothes. You need shoes. Your kids need whatever they need. Everything was 15%. Now it's 9%. But also now the shops can't cook the system. As a result of making VAT applicable across the board, we envisage to collect $120 million more because of compliance. Because of compliance. The $200 departure tax we pay, a certain percentage of that goes to CAF. A certain percentage of that goes to AFL. Look at the airport today now. We had 1.3 million throughput through the airport. This is 1.4 million throughput. Sorry, no, Fiji Airways are doing 1.3 million, now 1.4 million throughput. The tourists look at these things. So it helps, it's a balancing act. How are we, as I was saying, how are we able to do all these roads? Because we're able to collect that money. So, generally you would think, if you can afford to pay $1,200 to buy a ticket to go to Australia and return, $200 is not that much money on top of that. If you are going for a holiday, if you are migrating, please see it as your departure gift to Fiji. You know what I mean? So this is critical. We can't be making exemptions everywhere. We want to make exemption. If you buy your first home, you don't pay stamp duty. Because we see that as a very important thing. And that's easy to monitor. That's the reason. So there's somebody here.
Sir, I'm representing Samsara Taxi Association, and we have got 109 taxis there. But our transport minister has legalized illegal private twin cabs to operate on the white number plates here, or the private number plate. And he has promised that he will issue them a commercial number plate very shortly. So that is affecting our taxi association also. And I request if this thing can be stopped, please.
Okay, you have some written submission here?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay. You can give us a copy of that, but please also write directly to LTA and to the minister.
Yeah, but the minister has overruled the LTA, sir. No application to LTA. directly individually they are meeting the operators are meeting the minister. Recently the minister was in Sumsau with the Prime Minister. And the drivers, the operators, they went to the minister and he promised them that he will issue them a commercial number plate.
I'm not aware of this, but you can give me the submission and I can talk to the minister and see.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Firstly, Bulak to you, sir, and all the people who are here today. I have got 3 issues to raise, Manuel, sir. One is on the deficit chart, which you showed us today and made an explanation. Can I know the aids which have been put to our government, to our country, from other countries, or donations made, does it affect the deficit of our country? The donations and aids which are poured into our country, does it affect the deficit of our government? And number 2, if we talk about roads, as you have said, the cause of the bad roads is the water problem. So I would again blame the government for this. Because government allows environmental change. Environmental change, I mean this reclamation of lands. Unless government gives permission to reclaim the land, it cannot be done. So what happens when the area of the water is reclaimed, the other parts is being affected? And thirdly, my issue is directly what we are here today for the taxi industry. I'd like to raise this, this is a business, taxi is a business. And if I say somebody has $1 million hotel investment is a business, it's also a business. Only the class may be different. So why those business can be transferred easily and why this taxi business have only 3 grounds of transfer? One is death, second is migration, and third is medical purposes. And also in medical purposes, sometimes you have to surrender your PSV license. So if you look at the death, once a person dies, there's a lot of payments have been seized in LTA because there has been problems with the family when a person died who holds the taxi permits, and the case goes to civil courts. And it normally takes, I say, 7 years to 15 years sometimes to solve it. But who is the right owner to get the taxi permit? By the time he gets the judgment or decision from the court, he has spent so much, when he comes back to LTA, there is no permit has been deleted. And secondly, when a person dies, why people have to spend extra costs? If I'm a father, I'm in good health, and I want to transfer my taxi permit to my son, or somebody in family, why can't I do that at the same time, rather than after waiting for the probate, wasting time of up to 6 months for probate application, 3 to 6 months, and further works to be done on that. And secondly, in medical, in these grounds, we have to surrender PSV like license, they say, if you have 1 taxi permit. My question is, if a person is sick, but he still can drive occasionally, he could not look after the taxi business like repairing and things, but sometimes he can feel good, he can have a better health later. Maybe he have diagnosis or something, so he can be better. So why can't his opportunity is given to drive a taxi? His dream is not being faded or faded away. The dream should be there that he could have a job, he can look after his family. And thirdly, I want to talk on migration. At the moment, I've been reading this particular magazine which has been provided by Mr. Rishiram. I have found a lot of changes in that it indicates that 50% has to be paid to LTA. The payment has to be surrendered, and the LTA makes the decision who to get the payments. So in this particular issue, if you look at me, my father has owned a taxi permit from 1960s. So he has done a hard work. It's not LTA brought that valuation to the taxi permit business to that particular point. It was the hard job of my father. After that, I have been looking after the permit from 2000. So what about if I have financial difficulties? So our government or LTA should give us chance to sell the permit. Like I want to educate my children. I can sell the permits. Like open transfer should be there. I would be able to sell my permit and pay for my child's education. Or if I'm sick, I can pay for the doctors, like medical expenses, to be in a better health. And thirdly, if this open transfers is done, as you have said, economy needs growth. So when this open transfer is done, a lot of people will sell their business and somebody else's will buy. So there will be borrowing of money from financial institutions. So it will help the government economy in terms of a reserve bank. So there will be a growth of economy too. Thank you. That's all.
Point you raised regarding transfer first. There are a number of issues you identified that obviously is quite important. And in fact, in the report that was referred to by Shamim, we have also tried to address in that issue. And they have, the minister is obviously looking at that. There's no doubt about that. I think the investment regarding, say, comparing a hotel with a taxi is slightly different. Because like you said, the scale is different. But also you don't need to have a license per se. You get a license for a hotel, but that's if you compare, if you adhere to all the different standards. There's also the issue of, and I agree with some of the points that you raised. No doubt about that, there's some issues that need to be considered. A lot of these regulations, apart from the 50% sharing, has been in place since the 1990s whenever the LTA came into being. So it's just continued simply, apart from the 50% one. So I think the LTA obviously is considering and re-looking at all of that, and I think the Taxi Association is also raising that as an issue. But as you know that one of the reasons why taxi licenses are given also is it's tied in with the location. You know, this whole base issue. This is why one of the recommendations we had made in the report that came from our office was that we need to re-look at bases, whether bases should be free for all. At the moment you have an allocated base, you need a base, you operate from that base. We know that most taxis don't operate from the base. It's a bit of a farcical issue. So we've asked them to re-look at that too. So some people can argue and say, for example, if you are in Mengania, the base is there, and you sell it. So the person who buys it, what's the condition of him buying it? Can he operate it from anywhere else, or does he have to operate it from there? I mean, these are the issues that need to be considered. And I think there needs to be a widespread consultation regarding that. We need to think about it quite thoroughly. The next point, which is your first point regarding donations from overseas, definitely has got nothing to do with it. Donations actually, for example, what we call aid in kind. Aid in kind is factored into the budget. So you know, when we had Cyclone Winston, you know how when countries say, oh, we've donated $16 million or $50 million, we don't get that money. So for example, when the Australians say we've donated $50 million, that $50 million is made up of the salaries they pay to the soldiers. It pays for the fuel of the boat, the cost of the boat to come to Fiji. All of that, the helicopter that you see flying around, that fuel they added on to that $50 million. So it's not cash, we don't get cash. There are certain areas that we get donations like aid in kind. So for example, WHO will say, we will give you this much vaccines. And the value of that is $50,000. So if you read the budget book, you'll always note in Ministry of Health, you have let's say aid in kind, WHO, medicine. So that's the difference. The second point that you raised, I forgot what was it? Oh yeah. No, when I meant water, I meant rain. Today you cannot realign it because you've got all these other developments. To actually do that realignment now, you have to uproot all these people from their homes. You have to pay compensation. So obviously the management of Nandi River needs to be done in a different manner. And JICA has already given us a report. There's a proposal for us to be able to take out some loan. JICA is offering some soft loan. We're talking to various other agencies where we can get some grant money to do the management of Nandi River. So it's a combination of issues. But when I was talking about the water, it's more to do with the rainfall. As you can see that rainfall, generally in most parts, even in the rural areas where there's no ceiling, when it rains, the road actually gets demolished quite significantly. But I think the third point that you raised is quite significant. And I'm sure the LTA will look at that. And there needs to be a re-look at all of these regulations. And we are obviously very open-minded about that. I think the executive are getting a bit, maybe the last one.
Normally, General. So when we take people from this end, from town to General Island, along the hotels and marina, we are not allowed to take people from that side. And there is some RSL and private cars, and they can do it. Taxis is not allowed from that side. If people you want to hire, or even if you got a family or a friend who wants to come back to town, they don't allow us the security.
I know, this issue, as you know, we've discussed it before too. And we've asked the LTA to look at this, and we're hoping that the new board will find a resolution to this very, very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Give the mic here, Mike.
It's from Lambasa, sir. From Lambasa. Thank you, sir, your time. First of all, just I would like to know that why the vehicle age is there, whereas we have seen that according to Fiji Road, the vehicle should be judged by the condition. That's why the LTA officers, technical officers are there. That it should be judged by the condition, not by the age. Yes, from Nambasa, if we see that just lately one of my members, he has changed his car and he has run that car for 40 years. And it was in a good condition, because sometimes even we see the new vehicles, their condition go bad, but still the old one remains in a good condition. So that's my request. The vehicle should be judged by the condition, not by the age, according to Fiji Road. And another thing, we have seen in Lambasa that LH is running like a taxi under the nose of the authorized officers. And so many times we have been lodging the complaints, but up till now nothing has been done. So I don't know why they are sitting there, they are not doing anything, despite having the meeting with them and just be lodging the written complaint. And so these two issues, we are affected too much in Lambasa.
Thank you for that. Regarding the age issue, obviously, that's something that LTA will need to look at. And also LH, I mean, it's also the implementation of the actual regulations. I think that's very important. And again, we've recently been having discussions with the LTA board and also with the minister, and I think you'll see some improvement in that area. There has been, the LTA board will say that there's a bit of cleanup that's going on. You may need to just give them a little bit more time to do that cleanup. And so at least we have enforcement of the laws on an equal basis. Ladies and gentlemen, your executive obviously wants us to stop now. I would now like to talk about some LTA issues in respect of that, and that is one of the issues that was raised was regarding the tins that were issued, and the other one was the staffing issue. The staffing issue, of course, about collusion is being addressed by LTA. I cannot say anything further about that. They will need to deal with it. I understand they're being very proactive about it too. They're asking the staff. I think some of the staff have also made their declarations, and LTA board will deal with that. In respect of the tin numbers, we are currently looking at perhaps some change in the regulations as to how we can make it a lot fairer for members of the public. One of the things that we are also concerned about is that traffic infringement notices, a lot of them end up in the court system. So from the Ministry of Justice perspective and also for court administrative purposes, a lot of these things should not be ending up in the court purpose, in the courts. It really should be dealt with separately. Many jurisdictions deal with it separately. And also, if for example you get booked by the speed camera or even the handheld camera, if you are booked, say, near Singatoga, but you live in Suva, if you have to appear in court, you have to come all the way to Singatoga. It's very, very cumbersome. It's silly. In the modern day age, it should not apply. So these are some of the areas that we are looking at in terms of the regulations. Regarding the issue of the notices for cameras, speed cameras, there have been a lot of noise being made about whether we should have notices to say speed camera ahead. We never used to have any notices saying police ahead with a handheld camera. So these are some of the areas that are being looked at. There's no doubt some jurisdictions overseas, they actually do have signage. The signage is to say speed camera ahead. So hopefully then you'll all slow down. From a government perspective, the reason why we have speed cameras is not to collect revenue, but to make sure you actually drive to the speed limit. The actual purpose of getting you to stick to the speed limit is that we don't have accidents, that people stick to the speed limit. That's the purpose. It's not to collect revenue per se. That's not the main objective. The main objective is that people drive safely. And you can see we have very high levels of accidents in Fiji too. So that's the main purpose. And you'll see that the minister has also met up with the LTA board, and they have decided that they will put up some signages, in particular regarding speed cameras. But of course, you're not going to have signages regarding, say, the policeman is around the corner, please drive carefully. Nobody's ever complained about that, saying you should put up a signage. But in respect of this, there will be some signages that will be put up. So that, I think, addresses the issue. But the main point is this, that we need to be able to ensure that we drive safely. When people actually make noises about saying we should have signages, it's like they're saying to us, well, if you don't have it, then I can drive really fast. I can drive really fast. Just as in relation to you also, we are looking at issues such as third-party insurance too. At the moment, we're looking at doing a review of how the entire third-party insurance policy is being managed. And we may be making some changes. We're looking at making some changes and also ensuring that the claim for damages is processed much quicker and much faster. In countries like New Zealand, you have ACC, where people, even for workers' compensation, they don't have to go through the court system. If somebody loses a finger, there's a price on every part of your body. So if you're right-handed, you lose your hand up till here, there's a price for it. You simply go, the claim is verified, you get paid the money. You don't have to go through a court system, long drawn-out court system. These are some of the issues that we are looking at. In respect of, I think, making submissions, please, I ask you, as we've said to the other segments in our country, different economic sectors, let's get away from an antagonistic approach. Let's get away from this, fight mentality. Let's make some constructive criticism. I'm sure the new LTA board is willing to sit down and talk. When we make suggestions, let's think about long-term goals. Where do you see yourself in 5-10 years' time? This is the only way that we'll improve. So I know that there have been some decisions that have been made in the past that may not have necessarily been made in the best interest of everybody, that may have been made without any consultation. Let's start on a clean slate. Let's say that let's all work on a positive manner to be able to see how we can make some amendments for the change and for the betterment of change. Okay, I think really that's about all that I wanted to talk about.
Thank you.
Recommendations. We've asked the LTA, the Ministry of Transport, to consider things such as what you're proposing, and that decision will come out soon. But I'm sure that the LTA will also hold consultations with you to be able to come up with those issues. I mean, when you're saying a lot of issues have not been solved, Rishi is saying exactly. Again, you see, this is a very negative approach. There have been a lot of issues that have been resolved. We got your taxi fare increase. There are other issues. We are actually willing. We're coming down to talk to you. I don't know how many other ministers and attorney generals have come to your AGMs and spoken like this, and been open to new ideas, open to suggestions, have intervened. So let's try and be positive, not be antagonistic, Rishi. I hope you're not wearing an NFP flag here. My point is this, but I'm serious about it. I'm really serious about that, because you see, when you have people who hold official status in organizations, there should not be a conflict of interest. There should not be a conflict of interest. And I'm saying this, and I've said this to you before. There should not be a conflict of interest. If you are wearing the hat of the General Secretary of Taxi Association or President or whatever position you're holding, it should be for that organization. It should not be for the considerations of other, perhaps, political agendas. And I'm not saying that he's necessarily doing that. We're saying this to everybody. You're not just saying it for Taxi Association. we're saying to the trade unionists, we are saying to other groups of people that hold different positions. If your mandate is to look after that particular organization, it should be for that particular organization. Because otherwise we can all stray in different directions. In the same way, when we go and have these budget consultations, I mean, we've had people, I stand up and listen to them, they say, look, this area you guys are not doing it better or not doing it well because you need to do X, Y, Z. We listen to them because we need to have an open mind about it. Because our objective is to improve what we are doing. In the same way we say to the LTA officials, the staff, you need to be able to ensure that you are focused simply on that. This is why we're saying it's a conflict of interest. If they have interest in PSV licenses themselves or their family members, they won't be able to do their job properly because there's a conflict of interest. So we should not be carrying out these roles if there is a conflict. So I would like to thank the gentleman for that comment. And please, again, I say to all of the officials over here that we need to take a positive approach. I mean, we have Mr. Ashok Patel sitting in the back. He's a board member. He's obviously here to listen. I'm sure he's learning certain things that he may not have heard about before. In the same way, we learn certain things when you tell us. That we know exactly what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and maybe how we can improve ourselves. I'm sure the LTA officers are thinking about that too. So let's be a bit positive. I think there's a lot of positive things happening. We have a LTA board, we have a minister that's willing to listen. There may be certain issues, for example, that has been raised from Samsagu. We'll get the submission, we'll talk to him. From our perspective, legally, the regulations and law must apply equally to everybody. Because that will lead to confidence. When the regulations and the law applies to everybody, and I think this is the problem with the illegal, what's called illegal operations. And I think again, as your president also highlighted and you've highlighted, there are changes in society, there's demands. Nandi is no longer what Nandi used to be. Nandi is very different. Nandi is going to be declared a city. You have over 25,000 people. In the same way that Nandi Hospital is not up to scratch to the size that Nandi is. So we have to make those adjustments too. There's certain, everywhere we have to make adjustments. So all of us need to be on the same page. So I hope that the interaction has been beneficial. And please, if you have any suggestions, I'll need to leave soon because I've got another meeting. But I thank you for the invitation, General Secretary. We look forward, of course, to working with all of you and also all of you individually. And let's try and work together with the LTA board and the minister to fix up a lot of the issues that have been outstanding for quite some time, and be on a more positive note. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good year.
Thank you very much.
Because we also witness what's going on, and we know whatever we're going on, it's general. I know that the ladies are always being left on the side. But this is a time for us to stand up. I thank you, Honorable Minister, and the executives of the Fiji Taxi Union. All these issues, some issues we've been voiced today, I think it comes down to the district level. Nandi, Nakoka, Samsagu, Lambasa, Suva. If our own taxi union in that area is okay, they are functioning well, these issues should be coming up here because it should be addressed first from our district level. And most of these issues have been said over and over again. I haven't been attending the Fiji Taxi Union Association because I have been away most of the time, I'm sorry. But today, I can see that only men are talking, saying this, saying that. As a woman, and I'd like to say for my sisters out there, please, in these issues about taxi, think of the ladies too, who are taxi owners, who are taxi drivers too. And these kind of things, let's sort it out from our level, district level, before we bring it up. When we came in today, we women were not even recognized. And that's not good. We try to, the government is trying its best to do gender balance. But today, there are only a few women. I'm not trying to say anything bad to everybody. I appreciate everybody's running business, but this is not the place to talk about whatever we're supposed to be talking about before we came in here. And I thank the Honorable Minister for enlightening us with the budget thing. And let's, from this, after this AGM, let's move it forward that the next AGM we won't be talking the same issue again. Issues which will benefit everybody, which will make more bread and butter for us at home and our families. And I hope you don't mind, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too much. I know ladies are shy, but we are strong. But today, I would like to apologize if I'm talking too much. And I would like to just ask the Honorable Minister just one favor for the budget side for the people traveling on Fiji Airways. We've seen that they're receiving now thousands of dollars for the profit. We travel, but it's very sad that when we travel on our own Fiji airline, we pay for extra baggage, which is very expensive. Other airlines in other countries, we pay less. Can something be done to us Fiji people who are traveling from here? That extra baggage, can they come down or don't pay for that extra baggage? Please.
Thank you very much, madam.
I don't know if you've done a statistical analysis, but I think if you find that you had extra baggage and you fly in Qantas, they'll charge you a lot more than what Fiji Airways charges. So I don't think it's necessarily exactly accurate. All airlines have international standards in terms of excess luggage. There are some airlines now, of course, the bigger ones. For example, Emirates. If you travel on Emirates, because there is a price war, so Singapore versus Emirates now, they allow you to, the allowable luggage allowance is a lot more. So economy is now 30, business is 40, or they increase it to 45. That's how they compete with each other. Airline industry is a very tough industry. Many national carriers in the past 10 years have shut down in the world. Polynesian Airlines, Solomon Islands Airlines is only a one aircraft national carrier. Tongan Airlines have closed down. So it's a tough business. When the price of fuel changes, it can affect your profit margins by 40 to 50%. So I think, those kind of things are there, but there are some answers. But I'm trying to explain to you what's the rationale.